Hello and welcome back to Skep's Unnamed Deck Showcase. I join you today with not a live twin deck profile, even though it is my 100th video on this channel. I'd like to be able to play that deck, but I have not yet acquired the 6 URs necessary to play that deck at even a reasonable capacity. So I've decided to instead show off my consolation prize, a budget version of Altergeist that only requires 1 main box UR from the newest box, and 3 copies of Paleozoic Canadia, and 2 copies of Compulsory Evacuation Device. And so here we are with the deck, and as you can see, as promised, we are only playing one of the new main box UR Meluseek. Of course, we are backing that up with a total of 8 main box URs from across Duel Links history, so this isn't really a budget Altergeist deck, but most people went in on the Warning Point box because Salamangreat was so good at launch, and World Chalice was good as well. You might not have 3 copies of it, but you'll probably have a couple to fill out the deck list, and Canadia is just the best non-limit trap that also isn't Warning Point, which is why we're on that. I just wanted to talk about the traps first because the traps you're playing are important because your deck synergizes with them, and I believe these 8 are the most impactful and easiest to activate. Ice Dragon's Prison is dead in some matchups, and I only own 1 of it, so I'd rather just play the 2 copies of Compulse, so I know I always have access to it. Although, worth mentioning, Ice Dragon's Prison does out Chaos Max Dragon, so it might be worth playing a 1-1 split or just 2 Ice Dragon's Prison in this deck if you own them. I, of course, only have 1 IDP, so maybe I'll play it, but I'm liking Compulse for now. Warning Point is good, but it is the most cuttable trap, and I will explain why as we get through the deck profile, because it is exclusively reactive. You can only use it when your opponent summons a monster, whereas Canadia and Compulse, you can flex in the battle phase to potentially make your opponent overextend into a monster that you can remove or flip face down and remove on your turn, thus making your opponent waste resources and giving you an advantageous trade. One of the biggest issues this deck currently has is that all of its good traps are 1-for-1 removal spells at best, which is why I'm not on Dinomischus, Karma Cut, or Raigeki Break, because I want all my traps to have as much impact as possible while only using themselves on the field as a resource. Because this deck is always trading 1-for-1 with its traps, if you're 2-for-1ing, you're going to lose resources that much faster, and as a control deck, that's never where you want to be. I built this deck around retaining as much advantage as possible while riddling your opponent's resources down and allowing you to push for lethal with summons of Hextia or just removing your opponent's monsters from the field and getting in with a Marionetter and Silquidus over the course of a couple turns. We're on 1 copy of Conquiri. It is the Battle Fader of the archetype. Didn't come up too much because in all the games I really wanted to use a Battle Fader, I was against BLS where they had the big fucker that is a Ancient Gear Golem, so you couldn't activate the effect anyway. But basically what this does is if an opponent declares an attack while you control an Altergeist card, not monster, that's important, and I'll explain why as we get to the traps, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, negate the attack. If this card is special summoned, target a face-up card your opponent controls, negate that target's effects while it and this card are face-up on the field. This is the ideal target on paper to return with the next monster, Silquidus. Frequently, how this deck plays out is Silquidus control backed up with a couple of trap cards set face down, so you can continuously summon Multi-Faker from the deck, pull out a copy of Marionetter, return Marionetter with Silquidus, normal summon Marionetter to set another trap card, then you activate Silquidus on your turn to return Multi-Faker to your hand, and then you can activate the Altergeist trap you set with Marionetter to summon Multi-Faker, and then another Silquidus if you link Marionetter and Silquidus off for a Hextia or something. And that's frequently how the deck plays, is just Silquidus control bouncing monsters on top of your generic traps to use your opponent's resources up. What Altergeist Silquidus does is, on a quick effect, you can return 1 other Altergeist control to your hand, then target 1 card your opponent controls, return it to the hand. That is basically how you're playing this deck. Like I said, Silquidus control, backed up by a couple trap cards. You're going to be returning your Altergeist monsters to the hand to summon again on your turn, which is why we're on 3 Marionetter, or returning Multi-Faker to activate a trap on your turn and get it out of your hand that way. This is the way I've seen the most success with this card. It also targets back row and things like that, so keep an eye on this card. This is more or less your win condition until you establish a Hextia. Importantly, if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target an Altergeist trap in your graveyard, add that card to your hand. This is not the most effective piece of floating the deck has, because both Altergeist traps we're playing banish themselves to get you advantage, but it is something that can come up. We're on 3 copies of Marionetter. I wanted to be on 3 of this because I just pulled 3 of it. I went hard in on the old Witchcrafter box because I was dumb enough to think that the reason I wasn't hitting King of Games with Lunalights is because I wasn't playing the ultra rare Chimera Flesia, and I had to go through the entire box for it. I felt like a huge idiot, but here we are, and I have 4 copies of Marionetter for my suffering. Ultimately, most decks are playing 2. I don't think that's correct or incorrect, but I do think this deck has space to play Pot of Duality because you never special summon on your turn. So you can cut 2 of this, and again, if you went in on the Salamangreat box and you have Pots of Duality, you can play that instead. Duality has the upside of digging you for your 1 copy of Spoofing, but I have a consistent enough time accessing the linear game plan without always requiring Spoofing, so I value the high-impact traps instead. Lastly, I don't know if I talked about Multifaker, but we'll talk about Meluseek right now. Only playing 1 of it because I only have 1 and I wanted to make this video. 1 is fine. I definitely wouldn't play 3 because I think 1 copy of at least Ice Dragon's Prison in this deck is worth playing. What Altergeist Meluseek can do is it can attack your opponent directly, and when it inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can target a card they control and send it to the graveyard. That's like not super impressive because you'd really rather it be non-targeting removal, but it at least bypasses cards that can't be destroyed for whatever that's worth. Most importantly, when this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add an Altergeist monster from your deck to your hand except a copy of itself. This is pretty funny because you can link it off for Link Karibo in order to search any other monster, but if you want to free extra deck space up, you can actually link off into Artemis instead and remove Link Karibo for a second copy of Hextia. But overall, Link Karibo is a better card than Artemis, and again, at the time I recorded these replays, I only had 1 Hextia, so this is why I'm talking about this build of the deck, even though it is suboptimal. I'll show you what I would play these days after we're done talking about Altergeist Multifaker. Multifaker is the card that accesses your primary playmaker, although it could be considered your primary playmaker itself. When you activate a trap card, I'm sorry, not when, if you activate a trap card, meaning your opponent cannot chain block it, like with Paleo's revival effects, you can summon this on a new chain, then again on a new chain. When this card is special summoned, you can special summon an Altergeist monster from your deck in defense position. That is a hard once per turn, and it cannot summon itself. You are frequently summoning Altergeist Silquidus with this effect, or if you have Silquidus on the board already, you will summon Altergeist Conquiri. That is the monster lineup I'm playing, and I will explain the trap ratios. This is the best trap, and you should probably just play 2 of it. But I only had 1 when I recorded these replays, so I am playing a copy of Altergeist Fail-Ass. This card is bad, though it did, believe it or not, win me a game, and that is very funny. And I'll tell you why I'm playing this over the other bad cards like Camouflage, which more people are playing. I'm playing this because both Marionetter and Silquidus and Conquiri specify that you need to control an Altergeist card in order to activate their effects. This is a continuous trap that doesn't need an Altergeist to be face up on the field to be activated and turns on all of your other Altergeist's effects. Marionetter has a secret effect that you can target 1 Altergeist card you control, card not monster, so you can set failover and target the failover you set. And if you do, send the card on the field of the graveyard, and if you do, special summon that other monster from your graveyard. It is just an additional piece of synergy. Silquidus can return failover, and Conquiri can use failover face up on your field in order to summon itself and negate an attack. The only thing this card has over Camouflage is the fact that you can activate it on an open board state, which doesn't happen 99% of the time. The other thing that was important is you could banish failover from the graveyard to return an Altergeist monster to your hand. That is also what I was thinking of, but in practice, it's actually really difficult to get this card into your opponent's graveyard unless you're discarding it off a Nightmare. And Marionetter doesn't search you Altergeist traps, it sets them, so they'd have to be bounced to your hand with Silk in order for you to discard them. So just a lot of steps to go through in order to send it to the graveyard. When most people are playing Cosmic over MST as their back row removal of choice, it's definitely not optimal, and I have removed it in my current build of this deck. Let's move on to the extra deck, our mandatory Link 1 Artemis. You can normal summon Altergeist Marionetter, and if you're not playing Failover, you can search Manifestation and then link it off for Artemis so your Manifestation becomes live. The only problem with that is you can't really get your Artemis Magistus Moon Maiden out of the extra monster zone, so if you are going to go for that combo on turn 1 every time you open Marionetter, you might consider playing something like a Ballista Squad instead of a Warning Point, just so you can get your Magistus Maiden off the field on your own terms. One copy of Link Karibo is the optimal Link one to summon off Meluseek. I think for the sake of space, I would cut Link Karibo for the second Hextia, because 2 Hextia is a very formidable inboard, and if you make it, you're probably winning the game. So I think you can probably cut Link Karibo. One copy of Nightmare Phoenix and Cerberus as just Flex Link 2s. Cerberus finally came up and won me a game, so I am glad I'm playing it, and I wouldn't really cut it because I don't think you need 3 Hextia in this deck. I think 2 is plenty. One copy of Ningirsu for non-targeting removal. That's another reason why I might keep Link Karibo in if I have to make Artemis. It'd be nice to be able to make a Hextia, make a Link Karibo, and then make this thing to out a Chaos Max. So that's another reason to potentially keep multiple Link 1s in the deck. I don't know if it's necessary because I don't know how often I'm going to make it. It didn't come up in any of the games I've played so far, but I really think this deck wants an out to Chaos Max, so I think it's important to at least potentially keep it in for games it can win you. One copy of Nightmare Unicorn for if we make a Nightmare Phoenix and Cerberus and we need to link into something that gives us a down arrow for Hextia. And then Prime Banshee as really a card I haven't summoned yet, but I mean, maybe it's good. Honestly, you can probably just cut Prime Banshee and Link Karibo and just play 3 Hextia. That's probably fine too. So I don't really know how often Prime Banshee will come up, but we're playing it at least. Before we hop into some games, I'll show you the extra deck, or the deck that I am playing right now, and why I think it's better. This is the build of Altergeist that I'm playing currently. I want to play 3 Altergeist traps because in a lot of the games you're going to see, I keep returning Marionetta to my hand, and I want to be able to get more advantage off it. So I am playing 1 more Altergeist trap than in the other build, but Camouflage again is good for protection. And the second Manifestation is just nice because if you're only playing 2 Altergeist traps again, 2 Manifestation is probably the way to go. You can target Manifestation with Manifestation when you're banishing it to add an Altergeist trap to your hand, so that's worth mentioning. This is what I would play optimally, and let's show you how Altergeist plays on the ladder in Legend rank. Alrighty here, game number 1, folks, going to be up against a mirror match of Odeon on Dogshit Stall. We are going second. Let's see if a trap deck can beat a deck with no win condition. I'll let you decide which is which. They're going to normal summon Grand Mole, set 3, and pass. Very funny. We are going to attack directly with Meluseek and send that Grand Mole to the graveyard, passing over to them. They are going to pass without doing anything. We are going to link off for Link Karibo in order to search a copy of Multi-Faker to our hand. Normal summon Marionetta for no effect and get that Floodgate Trap hold. They are going to burn us with Chain Reaction, and we are going to Warning Point to free up a space for our Phaelas, because I don't think our opponent is going to be summoning any effect monsters anytime soon, so we're just going to attack. They're going to banish a Multi-Faker with that trap card. Very unfortunate. They're going to set another 2 cards and pass. Very interesting. They're going to Tiki Soul and burn us for another 200 and get Statue of Anguish pattern going off here. They are going to summon that in defense position and summon that, triggering the Anguish pattern. We will chain Canadia, which will flip their monster face down, burn for 200, and summon Multi-Faker to our field. That is fine with us because by destroying our Link monster, they now give us access to Hextia. We're going to bounce that back row, and we are in a very good position. They're going to activate Necro Valley. Just a real fucking thinking man over here, folks. We're going to get Multi-Faker out of our hand during their end phase. They're going to chain Tiki Soul, and that is totally fine because we bounce their monster, meaning they will have to wait another turn to set it. Tiki Soul is nothing we need to worry about on its own. We're going to normal summon Marionetta and set Manifestation directly from our deck, then bounce the face-up card to bounce Necro Valley. This will allow us to link summon a copy of Altergeist Hextia, activate the effect of Canadia to flip their monster face down. This will chain our own Canadia in the graveyard. Then we will summon Multi-Faker on a new chain and have a lethal push. We'll go in for Canadia and kill him with Hextia. Game number 2, going to be up against a Jaden Yuki on what else but not the new skill, but Hero Alliance Classic. 7-card extra deck. They are going first, which means they probably win the game because they get to set 12,000 back row. They're going to normal summon Elemental Hero Stratos, grab Liquid Soldier. Hard opening Polymerization must be nice. That will get them Sunrise and allow them to draw 2 cards and discard 1, meaning they're going to, of course, draw into the Super Polymerization and 17,000 copies of Book of Moon. They're going to set 2 cards and pass. We're going to draw the best card in our deck, Marionetta, and see what we can do here. We are going to set a copy of Phaelas. They're going to Cosmic Cyclone, hit the personal spoofing. They are just built fucking different, folks. Hard activating Miracle Fusion. Going into the copy of Sunrise, they are going to activate their Sunrise and Liquid Soldier. Did you know you could activate this card fucking twice off its own effect? That's disgusting. They're going to normal summon Stratos, pop 2 fucking cards. We're going to chain compulsory evac, burn for 200. We're going to chain failover for no real reason. Then we are going to let them destroy 2 cards. They're going to Miracle Fusion into the Shining, and there's really nothing I can do about this. They're going to attack with Sunrise, pop our card. We're going to negate the attack, which unfortunately does not protect our card, and it activates on a new chain, meaning we can't negate the destruction. So they're going to miss the attack with Stratos, kill us, and then kill us again. Game number 3 here in our third game, going second with the trap deck. You hate to see it, folks. Going to be up against a Playmaker and I, and you already know what they're on. It is Tenyi. They open Exodia in this match. We could have played through it, but their top deck was the actual 5th piece of Exodia. So we're just going to let them do what they need to do here. Going to go fully off here. Make Monk activate the Vessel for the Dragon Cycle after, or Heavenly, whatever the hell it's called. They're just going to set up their whole plays. You know how it goes. Get red and blue in the graveyard to protect their guy. Banish Ashana for the level 7. Normal summon this thing. And make Berserker of the Tenyi. That is just a crazy board, and they're going to gain 2,000 life points because just after they nerfed 3 effects, they gave us better 3 effects. Awesome. We love to see it. We're going to set 3 cards and pass, and they're going to rip Cosmic Cyclone for turn and hit the most important piece of our back row, and we just let them have it. They have lethal on field, nothing we can do about that. Alrighty, after losing 2 games in a row, there's only one thing that can make me feel better, and that is kicking a BLS baby's teeth in. We're going to be going second for the first time in a row, so don't let anyone tell you this deck cannot go second, because we're going to show you how it can perform, not only going second, but without drawing a single trap card. We're going to normal summon Marionette. They're going to Book of Moon, probably pretty preemptively, but that's fine. We're going to set Fail-Ass. They're going to Cosmic Cyclone our Fail-Ass. That is fine. We still can activate Canadia. They're going to set another card. We're still slowly waiting on being able to do anything. We are going to activate Pot of Duality back when I was playing that card, and we're going to grab a Compulse because we have all the cards we really need. They are going to set our monster face down. We are going to pass. They're going to finally summon a BLS. We cannot allow that to stay on the field, so we will set that face down, chain Multi-Faker, and activate its effect, summoning Silquidus. They're going to click their training wheels and let the game give them free resources because they can't play a good deck. They're going to activate Chaos Form, banishing 2 cards from the graveyard to summon BLS Legendary Swordsman. On the threat of ending main phase, we're going to put that BLS back in their hand. They are going to banish a Light in the Dark and the field spell in order to summon it. We're going to Compulse that motherfucker back to the hand. This is why I think it's so important to be playing Compulse in this deck. If they were able to stick that on the field, we lost the game. We're going to normal summon Marionette. They're going to turn that to defense position, and we are going to set it face down. They're going to attack. We are going to bounce it back to their hand, and then we are going to continue playing by summoning Marionette, setting Manifestation. This is why I want to be on 3 Altergeist traps, just because you can keep recycling Marionette and adding it back to your hand. It's just so impactful and very strong. We are going to attack. They're going to Crackdown. That is fine with me. We're going to bounce the target to put Crackdown back in their hand. Not ideal, but we just want to get in for damage. And what do you know? They're at exact chain reaction damage, and we have 2 traps set. Let's see what happens. They're going to special summon the BLS. We're going to chain Warning Point, and they are going to die. Alrighty, for the next installment of America's Funniest Duel videos, we're going to watch another toddler on BLS stick the fork in the electric outlet in real time. We open an incredible set of cards, and wouldn't you know it, we get to go second again. So we're going to normal summon our Altergeist Marionette, set Fail-Ass, set 2 cards and pass. They're going to Compulse. That is totally fine. They're going to MST. That is also totally fine. Not happy about them getting rid of Compulse, but we have Compulse at home when we activate the effect of Canadia to put that thing face down. They still get to keep it on the field, but it'll have to do. They're going to activate the Soul of Light and Darkness, summoning Super Soldier. No idea why they didn't get the fucking other BLS to block me from using effects in the battle phase, but that's fine. We're going to activate Fail-Ass in the instep just to burn them. No real reason. But we get to chain the Paleo, which is nice. Then we are going to finally get a Multi-Faker to our hand. We're going to set Manifestation, make Cerberus, coming up in the one time it ever actually came up, and we're going to destroy that card. We have Manifestation to revive Silk, but I think I end up targeting something else because I'm an idiot. So then we're going to activate Multifaker, summon Multifaker, and summon the second Silk. That's why we didn't summon it from the graveyard. We're going to return the Marionetter to destroy Manifestation and put it in the graveyard to bounce their monster back. Then if we had another trap, we could normal summon Marionetter again and search it. This is why I like 3 traps. They're going to Bottomless Trap Hole, but wouldn't you know, fail over triggers and summons Multifaker from the hand, activating its effect and letting us getting in for lethal with Cerberus. Can you believe it, folks? Fail-ass takes the game! So we're back with the deck, and while it was middling, I do appreciate a deck with a literal 100% BLS win rate. Let's talk a little bit about what I did and did not like about the deck, because there's actually some things to go over here. Chiefly, the fact that the deck does not have any good continuous traps really is a problem. Protocol, a card we absolutely cannot get in Duel Links, or the deck would be tier fucking, what, I don't know, -12, really helps the deck continually push through their opponent's cards, because as it stands in Duel Links, once you use one trap card to interrupt your opponent, you lose that resource. And unlike your opponent, you really lack an ability to stack major damage on the field. Yes, setting 3 cards and passing is incredibly powerful in this deck, but you can also do that in BLS, and when it comes to turn 3, you have like a 12 million% chance of getting 6,000 damage on the board, meaning you don't have to worry about your traps simplifying the game state long enough for your opponent to get back into the game. Secondly, while the traps trading 1-for-1 is not ideal, the other problem is the Altergeist traps just aren't very good. The only unabashedly good Altergeist trap we have in name is Manifestation, and 2 copies of that really seem redundant because so rarely do you need to revive your Altergeists, at least not in the games that I played. As for positives, I think Silquitas control is incredibly impactful. Remember, over the course of 2 turns, you're getting 2 card effect removals. You're not needing to remove your opponent's monsters exclusively because Silquitas can target any card they control. Meaning on your opponent's turn, you can return something like a Marionetter. On your turn, you can return something like a Multifaker, and then keep your resource loop on track by normal summoning Marionetter, linking off for a Hextia, and then on your opponent's turn, special summoning Multifaker and another Silquitas to keep the loop going. It's very impactful and it's very powerful, and I think it's actually quite fun to pilot. Another thing, you rarely access the extra deck, which in some people's mind is a positive. Some people really don't like link summoning, and they think extra deck mechanics ruin the game. I've got great news. This deck wins more often than not with its main deck alone, utilizing its extra deck exclusively as a toolbox rather than its only win condition. All in all, I don't think it's necessarily meta or tiered, but I do think it's at the very least a strong rogue contender and certainly worthy of getting King of Games, and quite fun to play if you like control decks, but you're really not a fan of brain-dead strategies that just set generic back row and win by kicking your opponent in the teeth in 2 turns. So that's that. Thank you all for watching till the end of this video, and I hope that you enjoyed your time here, or at the very least, learned something about this incredibly interesting deck. I'm hoping we get some good support for the Ghost Girl return event, but I'm not hopeful because I certainly don't think they're going to give us Protocol, especially not for free. If you did enjoy this video, please consider leaving a like and a comment as well. They help the video in the eyes of the algorithm, and I will see you in the next video, which might be some highlights of a deck I played recently on stream that I think you'll all enjoy. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.